For some people, it might be enough to simply have the ideas of how they can change their mindset. After all, with the concepts given above, it only takes common sense to make the actions that we need to do in our lives. But for most of us, these concepts will remain as mere ideas, especially in a fast-paced and busy world that we thrive in. Being in a world where productivity is of paramount importance, taking a time off for meditating on yoga might be quite absurd and counterintuitive. As we are paid per minute of our time, these ideas above might be quite confusing to actualize. And so, with all that confusion, we might fail to actualize the law of attraction as life happens. Distracted by work or even family issues, we may silently set aside whatever we have read above. Given this context, we at individualadjust.com have decided to give you more concrete tips in dealing with things, allowing you to proceed with some clear and practical tips to incorporate the law of attraction into our minds. Point 1. Spend less time on your mobile phones. While this point is being repeatedly reiterated, it is because it speaks nothing less than the truth. When we say that we need to spend less time with mobile phones, it means that we try to decrease our connection on social media and even our own favorite mobile games. This, of course, is with the presumption that most of us are being slowly consumed by this silent killer. While it doesn't really kill us right then and there, these devices are slowly seeping away our time and attention. Before we know it, we may already be consumed by these things as we become addicted to them in no time. How can we, then, attract love if we are consumed by our phones? One thing that we fail to notice about these phones is that they are truly addictive. The constant and endless usage of mobile phones can lead us into another world, one that is secluded from the now and the present. While phones, in themselves, aren't necessarily negative influences, what's contained in it can possibly become one. With the advent of social media, we have created a world wherein people can almost instantly communicate with each other. What we've failed to understand about it, or what we continually reject, it is that our phones have the power to condition our actions. But how? A decent Google search will lead you to numerous links that prove this point. The train of thought goes like this: the human brain releases a chemical called dopamine whenever we're happy. Whether it be eating our favorite steak or having with someone we love, even receiving words from them, our brain recognizes this and in turn releases dopamine. While this can be good in moderation, an excess of it, of course, will lead us into an unlimited amount of problems. But we can't eat or have lol for some. This might be possible with an unlimited amount of time, right? However, if we look at the advent of social media, our phones have become the ultimate platform for us to receive that instantaneous gratification. Those notifications, whether it be reacts or comments, posts, likes, whatsoever, they induce a certain amount of dopamine within us. Endlessly, we can swipe on these platforms, pay attention to what's happening to the lives of other people, commenting, and waiting for attention. As such, we constantly check our phones, waiting for notifications in one way or another. With it, we inevitably become reliant on these things before we know it. A study conducted shows that 73% of individuals who misplaced their phones exhibit a certain level of mild panic, anxiety and stress. We become addicted, but it isn't the end of the world. In fact, you being here is a blessing because you are given the opportunity to change this. By slowly decreasing your time on these platforms, it will aid greatly in improving your love and relationship life. Following the law of attraction requires that we make concrete actions in our lives. If we fail to see this, we can never move forward, for we will be constantly addicted in the dopamine that is reliant on our social media notifications. Giving ourselves some space from these things will allow us to empty ourselves of unnecessary attention. With this newly found space, we can proceed in making use of it by filling it with positivity and aligning our vision with the universe. All it takes is to spend less time on our phones. We don't need to cut them out, for we are truly members of this generation. But by re-evaluating where we are, we might see this area as a point for improvement. 2. Spend more time with other people. As we decrease our time with unnecessary things, it can be beneficial to spend more time with other people. And I don't mean spending time through instant messaging. Of course, what this tip means is to get up and go out with them, whether it be for a cup of coffee or 2 bottles of beer. But why? Why do we need to do this? How is this related to the law of attraction, positivity, and love? One thing that we have to understand is that spending time with other people is an essential part of being human. As social beings, we express our sociality through the constant and countless conversations that we engage with. Through other people, we are loved, and we give love. This kind of love is often abused and taken for granted as we endlessly consume them on our social media platforms. But as we have mentioned above, it is not the end of the world. Rather, it is the beginning of greatness, for the first step to change and progress is recognizing the problem. As we can see here, one issue is when we rely on pseudo-real ways of communicating with others. The solution, of course, is to opt for a real one. By spending more time with other people, it will help us simply because it will allow us to sharpen our engagement skills. Some people, for instance, can be quite timid and shy as they talk with others. We might bring that kind of friend along, every once in a while, as we go drink with our regular mates. The timid friend is likely to just sit there, grab a bottle, and not speak a word. This can change. By never giving up on bringing them along, they may start opening up. They may even be persons who are great to be with, and we just don't know it yet. In the same way, you may have that previous college friend that you wanted to meet with. However, since you are consistently drained in your own routine, it might be troublesome for you to set up a schedule with them. And thus, you easily forego. With this tip, you might reconsider going out with them. Treating them with a simple cup of coffee coupled with a handful of pastries can lead you to great places. Sometimes, love is there, and we just don't know it yet. That unnoticed friend in your chat box may be the universe's gift for you, and all it takes is to actually invite them out. But if you never asked them out, you would have never found out how great a person they could be and how compatible you guys can be for each other. It is by spending real and irreversible time with them that we see, feel, hear, smell, and touch them, while listening to their ideas as we speak of ours. This experience, while becoming underrated, is part of being human, to have a first-hand experience of real people in our lives. If you want to attract love and live out this law of attraction, it is not enough that you wish for it. Results require action, and taking someone out randomly might be it. And so, this 2019, go out and take that risk. Start inviting that long-lost friend, the guy or women from accounting, even your childhood playmate will do. Living that life of embodying the law of attraction, particularly for love and relationships, requires that we take action, even in small steps, together with our positive and abundance mindset. 3. Join groups you share a common passion with. By now, you would have already gotten our point, which is to socialize with others. These tips ultimately seek that you go out and meet new people, because new people mean new opportunities. But randomly socializing might not be good. As a matter of fact, we often find people making mistakes as they hang around with the wrong bunch. Birds of the same feather flock together. Tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are. These classic sayings, although cliché to a certain extent, fall nothing short of telling the truth. Associating ourselves with negative people can harbor negative thoughts and ideas. Although we will be able to notice this as we go along in our lives, sometimes, things just happen, and we fail to avoid them in time. As such, we end up with the wrong people. In this case, we are at a bad position in trying to live out the law of attraction. If you are relating well to this article, then it is most likely the case that you are in the exact same spot. After all, most people who are already good with their lives don't have time to read this. Fret not, my friend, for recognizing this is the first step towards success. If we want to cultivate positivity and attract love in our lives, we need to create or join an environment where we can flourish. Definitely, this environment is not found in constantly checking our phones for notifications, or with people who bring nothing but trouble, just as Taylor Swift would have sang it. Rather, an environment of positivity and love can most likely be found within people who share the same passion with us. Clay pottery, for instance, is a unique art not shared by the vast majority. People would even sometimes qualify it as a waste of time. But for a select few, this activity can be very meaningful for them. If you want to pursue this passion, pursuing it around people who aren't really supportive or understanding of what you want to happen will never contribute to your growth. However, looking for people with similar interests in your town or city might lead you to the right place. Joining them in their clay pottery sessions will help you discover more about what you love with people who share the same interest. While clay pottery cannot really teach you an actual thing about love, although the sheer amount of patience involved in it may hone you to become a patient partner, doing what you love with people you can be yourself with will. Given that we truly want to live a life where we foster positivity and the law of attraction in our relationships, 2019 perhaps is the year where we finally let go of the toxic ones. By letting them go, we give ourselves some empty space. With that space, we might want to look deep into ourselves and try to see what we want to happen with our lives. Doing this will lead us to look deep into our passions, and living the life of positivity requires that we pursue them. 4. Have some time for yourself. Perhaps the most overbought resource, time, is often purchased by companies and conglomerates around us. As they pay us for our productivity, our time is often dedicated to these money-making ventures. In the same way, time is also being used up by the current issues that we have around us. For instance, being a young parent can become quite the challenge, for you need to put others before yourself. Even our daily routine can heavily burden us with a lot of stuff, such that we would have little to no time for anything else. Constantly rushing in the morning, running late at night, grabbing that quick cereal breakfast, eating at your usual cafe, all of these things add up and consume our time, giving us little to not space for ourselves to think. But in order to program ourselves to embody this law of attraction and positivity, it requires that we have enough space within ourselves for it. If a cup has anything that you put in, it might spill. In the same way, trying to embody the law of attraction without properly preparing ourselves may lead to an overflowing cup, one that rejects the positivity that we're trying to pour in. Given this context of a fast-paced and productivity-based world, it pays to try and step back. While it is easy to say such, most of us end up wondering, how are we able to do it? We find ourselves asking that one friend how they did it with all the deadlines and targets that they have for this month. One of the popular ways to do it is by enrolling in yoga classes. In the traditional understanding, yoga is a way to unite with the Hindu god Brahman, or the cosmic consciousness. As such, its practices include a set of activities which seek to push us to meditation state and detach ourselves from the material world. In doing so, we open ourselves to the cosmos before us. Doing this practice is one way of allowing ourselves to detach from the demands of the productive and material world that we live in. By practicing yoga, we will be able to explore a different path for ourselves, one that is headed towards enlightenment. By understanding its core nature and purpose, we will be able to utilize yoga as one of the many ways to have a meaningful time for ourselves. Another way is going out to a serene place like a forest and disconnect from the world. As a matter of fact, this has been popularized, given that one of the richest persons in the world, Bill Gates, does this every once in a while. Unlike us who commonly go on a vacation to free ourselves from our tasks, Bill Gates spends time alone in order to pause and think things through about his life. This practice definitely means that he is spending time for himself, assessing his status quo. But if you really don't have time or cannot afford to do it, a simple way of meditation in your own environment might do the job. The whole essence, anyway, is to have time for yourself, to pause from being engrossed in the tasks of everyday life. By giving yourself this time, you are giving yourself some rest, allowing room for positivity and the law of attraction. 5. Go to the gym. This is, perhaps, the oldest and the most classic advice you'd ever hear. Commonly known and regarded for its effectiveness, going to the gym will solve a lot of your problems. If you are already there, you know that it works. Going to the gym will allow you to become a better version of yourself, as you train and condition your body in a way that allows you to achieve your potential. But before we discuss that, we should realize that going to the gym is backed by reason and science. Even history backs it up. Looking at the Greek ideal of the self, we can see that most of their heroes and icons were individuals with physical prowess. While they value human flourishing from all aspects of life, they certainly never miss out in emphasizing how important it is to become physically fit. By having a strong body, they believed that we can have a stronger mind. While they had no science to prove this one back then, modern-day researchers will prove to you that exercising and being physically fit has a lot to do with being mentally stable. Regular exercise can have a lot of benefits for us that can be helpful in embodying our goal of the law of attraction. It is one of the many concrete ways that we can condition ourselves towards positivity. The main reason behind this is that, first of all, there is a direct correlation between happiness, depression, and exercise. Regularly exercising will lead to the regulation of certain chemicals in the brain and aspects of it that affect our mood. As such, going there and hitting the gym consistently can affect our overall feeling and mood, making it easier for us to embody positivity and apply the law of attraction. Secondly, regular exercise can also increase our overall energy. Sometimes, we usually feel that we lack energy and are generally tired overall for no reason at all. This is because we allow ourselves to be accustomed to such state of being stagnant. Constantly doing exercise solves this problem as it alleviates that constant feeling of fatigue. Third, regular exercise will allow us to have better sleep. Negative thoughts may occur and fill our minds as we constantly consume content through our phones before sleeping. This alone can be a big problem, leading us to have a negative feeling overall. By doing exercises, we become more active and have more rest than before. These two things are essential if we want to align our goals with the force of the cosmos. It's like saying that we can't really discuss political problems with a person who is hungry. In the same way, we can't really embody positivity onto someone who is not physically positive. The law of attraction requires that we act upon it, even in our own small ways. Point 6. Improve your overall self. Looking at the lover archetype, we can see how they value this tip so much. At the center of their lives, they seek to constantly improve themselves, most especially how they appear to other people. While some of us might consider that superficial, the truth is it is only superficial if we do not back it up with good manners and right conduct. After all, who doesn't want someone who is aesthetically pleasing yet a true gentleman or a classic woman? We all aspire someone that is good and great, and words such as saying that they are superficial can be quite a reflection of how we see ourselves. More often than not, people who say that we shouldn't pursue success and greatness are individuals who fell short in their own lives. The same principle applies when we try to improve ourselves. Sometimes, doing such things will make people perceive us as too focused on the appearance part. But in reality, the people they look up to are more likely to excel on this part. From this common example where people brand us of becoming who we are not as we try to improve ourselves, we can see a plague of negativity, one that attracts mediocrity and unjustified pride. People who cannot excel pride themselves in this idea that they don't try to become who they're not or change themselves just to fit in for society's standards. While there can be some value to this claim, more often than not, it bars us from success as it impedes our personal growth. As such, instead of trying to go to the gym, we just dwell on our own donuts. Instead of trying to go to the dermatologist, we claim that we are right now, and it is wrong to change that. Instead of reading that self-help book, we dwell on our own opinions, for we perceive that everyone has their own opinion anyway. This kind of thinking, turned into concrete actions, are truly one of the silent ways to kill progress from within. Observing greatness, we can see that the greatest sportsmen or thinkers are often not the best but thrives in their own imperfections. Because they constantly and consistently seek to improve themselves, they cannot help but become great individuals. Most of their routines started from the bottom, slowly and dedicatedly working their way up, and endlessly trying to improve the way they make their decisions to become more efficient and effective. In other words, people who are great are such not because they are born with it, but because they accept their inaptness and are willing to put in the effort to change that. As you are reading this article, you should then ask yourself where you are situated in the light of this problem presented before you. Are you willing to put in the effort in order to change yourself? In applying the law of attraction to our lives, it is not enough for us to simply think of what we want to achieve, but also doing concrete things to get there. Improving our overall self is one of those ways, as this activity can spark in us the act of admitting to ourselves our inadequacies. By looking at ourselves in the mirror, we can see the things that we can improve upon, whether it be our appearance or perspective. Admitting this to ourselves and doing something about it can serve as a catalyst for change, leading us to become better individuals. In this way, we can truly work on the law of attraction, as we are not only attractive love in relationships but also doing our best to get there. 7. Go read some books, web content about dating and love. And no, I don't mean that you need to read those pocketbook novels that are all about improbable and unpractical notions of romance. While you can read them and get a sense of how to do it, you cannot stick to their cinematic advice, for most of which will lead you down the drain. What I am referring to here is that you need to try and learn from the experiences of other people. By seeing how they did it or have failed in it, we will have a better grasp of approaching our own relationships and love choices. As Otto von Bismarck puts it, only a fool learns from his own mistakes. The wise man learns from the mistakes of others. Although life may often approach us off guard, part of learning is paying attention to our own mistakes and not repeating them. This can be an effective trial and error method where we learn more about life and love as we experience it. However, same with the above principle, it is not a reason to stop us from learning from other people's mistakes. By seeing how others failed on the same subject, we can backtrack and compare our own actions to them and realize how we could have even done it better. Consider, for instance, someone who just went into a relationship. Sometimes, they can be too engrossed in it that they fail to make the right choices. One of the wrong choices that they could have made is that they allow the tipping of the balance within relationship dynamics. As such, either partner may gain permanent control of the other, instead of it being a natural push and pull dynamic. In the same way, compare this with someone who had knowledge of how relationship dynamics work. Someone who studied the nature of human interaction would have done a better job at the same problem, given that they may have been able to employ certain ways of communicating with their partners. By studying how generally people think, we can understand more about ourselves and individuals around us. This can be very helpful in dealing with them, as we become more aware of social cues and bodily expressions. Thus, we know it before they even mention it, which makes us a great basis for moving forward. As a matter of fact, even a quick YouTube or Google search will lead you to a lot of free content in the internet on how to properly do dating. While some of these advices may be misogynistic or chauvinist, taking them with a grain of salt will give you a basic idea of how to deal with people. The point is, by truly embodying the spirit of the law of attraction, we need to focus on what other people also can teach us. Attracting positivity is doing positivity. One of the ways, of course, is to explore and search for new or even old information about the aspect of our lives that we seek to improve. In this case, paying attention to how others did it leads us to better chances of landing at a better spot. True positivity requires action, and effective action requires proper thinking. Proficient execution is not simply thinking and feeling it, but also studying the things we want to do before even engaging on them. 8. Practice on your communication skills. If you'd ask a bunch of counselors and psychotherapists who focus on love and relationships, they will tell you that most of these relationships doesn't end well primarily because of a communication problem. A miscommunication would be an understatement, I'd say, simply because most problems are not only caused by errors within the communication stream. To say that there is a miscommunication means that one party may have conveyed a positive message yet was received negatively by the other. While this seems to be commonly the case, communication extends to more than that. Communication problems can extend to cases wherein one is unable to express their emotions, and eventually themselves within the relationship. What do we mean by this? How does one express oneself in a relationship? If we look at how the relationship dynamic works, we can see that it heavily relies on the signals that we send to the other person. When we give a bouquet of flowers, for instance, we communicate a unique idea of love to our partner as symbolized by the bouquet itself. Unlike giving them a car which would make them think about gas or maintenance, or giving them a cake which can make them think about how many minutes of cardio it would take to burn it down, giving someone flowers signifies that we are only thinking of them. This, perhaps, is the reason why people, especially women, love to receive flowers even when they are deemed impractical. The meaning embedded and romanticized in it has been immortalized and became irreplaceable. Giving someone flowers will make them feel loved. As such, by giving it to them, we are communicating a simple message of "I love you." A simple message like this is necessary for a relationship to thrive, as it continues to remind the person of their worth and value to the other. However, not all people are good at communicating these things. For some reason, they may not be as romantic or thoughtful compared to others, making it difficult for them to convey their feeling to the other. What's worse is that love in relationships are not simply conveyed to words, but also through actions. People may say that they love you, yet convey a different thing, far from what one would and could expect from the other. This can be a problem for the case of communication, such that the only way is to fix how one carries herself and delivers their own thoughts and ideas. Positivity, for instance, is something that people communicate. The law of attraction, in our attempt to focus and align our goals, requires that we must be able to communicate it even in ourselves. Such alone proves how vital communication is to the whole process, for without it, we are left in our own universe, unable to convey our own positivity and greatness to others. It is crucial then for us to take this with a grain of salt, that perhaps it took 2019 for us to move forward because we do have communication problems within our own social circles. More often than not, people who are good at communicating, including listening, are loved and adored by other people. In a world where everyone is opinionated and easily offended, communication can be the game changer on whether or not someone will be drawn towards you. Having this realization and carrying it on 2019 can become a crucial turnover point for you, as you embed your communication with positivity and growth. Who knows, this might even be the only missing point for you to have love this 2019. 9. Go out and socialize. In line with the previous tip, going out and socializing might just solve everything for you in a magical manner. When it comes to dating and relationships, positivity is and can be the secret missing ingredient. But in most cases, even when people are positive, they might fail in executing what they need to do in order to engage with others. The problem that we forget in this scenario is that when people first learn how to fish, it will be quite difficult for them. While some may perceive